I invite you to join in a moment of silent centering. And now we will sing our in-gathering hymn, number 361, verse 3. Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Madison. This is a community where curious seekers gather to explore spiritual, ethical, and social issues in an accepting and nurturing environment. Unitarian Universalism supports the freedom of conscience of each individual as together we seek to be a force for good in the world. My name is Dorrit Bergen, and on behalf of the congregation, I would like to extend a special welcome to visitors. We are a welcoming congregation, so whoever you are and wherever you happen to be on your life journey, we celebrate your presence among us. Newcomers are encouraged to stay for our fellowship hour after the service and to visit the library, which is directly across from the center doors of this auditorium. Bring your drinks and your questions. Members of our staff and lay ministry will be on hand to welcome you. You may also look for persons holding teal stoneware coffee mugs. These are FUS members knowledgeable about our faith community who would love to visit with you. We welcome children to stay for the duration of the service. However, because it is difficult for some in attendance to hear in this lively acoustical environment, our child haven and commons are excellent places to retire if a child needs to talk or move around. The service can still be seen and heard from those areas. And speaking of noise, this would be a good time to turn off all electronic devices that might cause a disturbance during the hour. I'd now like to acknowledge those individuals who help our services run smoothly. Our greeter, Mary Elizabeth Kunkel. Our ushers are John Magevna and Dick Goldberg. Coffee is being prepared for you by Helena Magevna, and our lay minister is Tom Boykoff. Please note the announcements on the red floors insert in your order of service, which describes upcoming events of the Society and provides more information about today's activities. And I have two special announcements. As you probably know, next Sunday, August 23rd, is Service Sunday here at FUS, and we need your help to sock it to homelessness. We are collecting socks and other personal care items for the Road Home, which is a homeless shelter for families that many of us here at FUS volunteer with. Please see your red floors insert for the list of items we are collecting, and be sure to bring the items with you next Sunday. There will be a table set up for the collection of the items at the front door as you enter. Thank you in advance for your donations. And Service Sunday is coming up next week. After this morning's service, the Service Sunday team will be in the Commons outside the library, ready to help you volunteer for a project and answer any questions. We have community service projects for all ages, abilities, and interests. This year, we're excited about some brand new projects, including working at the Arboretum, the Lisher Community Education Center, OM Village with the Tiny Houses Project, labeling neighborhood storm drains, and helping set up a new and innovative preschool. We'll also have some old favorites like building our signature benches, baking cookies for a homeless shelter, and visiting patients at the Veterans Hospital. Let's make this the biggest Service Sunday yet and show the community how much we care. Come see us in the Commons to get signed up and get excited to do some community service. Again, welcome. We hope that today's service will stimulate your mind, touch your heart, and stir your spirit.
We open our service with the words of Sophia Lyon-Fahs, perhaps the preeminent religious educator in our tradition during the 20th century. The religious way is the deep way, the way with a growing perspective and an expanding view. The religious way sees what physical eyes alone fail to see, the intangibles at the heart of every phenomenon. The religious way touches universal relationships. It goes high and wide and deep. It expands our feelings of kinship with all that is. And so we have gathered this morning as a company committed to this way, to the religious way. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit for the lighting of our chalice. And please join me in reading the words of affirmation printed in the program. From the mundaneness of our lives, we come seeking transcendence, beyond time, beyond our physical selves, and yet within the context of this very moment, we seek to touch and be touched by the sublime spirit of creation and discovery. In this hour of our gathering, may we be open to the insights, the inspiration, and the beauty that surrounds us and that together we generate in our common quest. And now on this warm August morning, I invite you to turn to your neighbor and exchange with them a warm greeting. Please be seated. And if we have any youngsters in the congregation this morning, I would invite you to come forward for the message for all ages. I know there aren't very many of you, but I need an audience up front here. I need to be inspired by your young and eager expressions. No, don't get too close. That would be contraindicated. So this is a story from the Jewish religious tradition, and it's called the wee wise bird. So once there was a certain man who took great pride in his beautiful garden. And each day he would go out with his tools and he would work in some part of that big garden, and he would dig and he would plant and he would weed and he would trim his bushes. And each morning he would walk to all parts of the garden because he wanted to encourage every little plant to keep on growing and be healthy. And he would give a friendly smile to every bud to help it open up into a big flower. Now one morning he was out on his usual walk, and the gardener noticed that some of the leaves had been torn off of some of his plants and they were lying on the ground. And some of the flowers had been completely pecked to pieces. The gardener was puzzled and angry. Who could have done this? Well, the next morning he went back into his garden and he found more plants just stripped of their leaves and more damaged flowers. And so he hid himself behind a big bush to see if he could catch the person that was doing this. But it wasn't a person. After a while, this very small bird, no bigger than a finch, flew down and perched on one of the gardener's rose bushes and proceeded to peck it apart in no time at all. Well, the gardener leapt out of his hiding place, and before the bird had finished eating a second flower, he had caught it in his hand. And he intended to carry that little bird, that bad little bird, off and kill it. But to his great surprise, the little bird began to talk. "Please do not kill me, kind sir," the bird begged. "I promise I will never come into your garden again, and if you let me go free, I will teach you some things that will be of great use to you." Well, the little bird felt very small and helpless in the gardener's hand. The gardener could feel that little bird's heart beating quick and hard, and he began to feel sorry for that little tiny creature. And the gardener was also curious about this talking bird. What kind of useful advice could a little bird give to him? And so now the gardener spoke to the little bird in a warm and friendly voice. "I am not a cruel man, little bird, and I'm always glad to learn something that could be useful to me. If you promise, cross my heart, to stay out of my garden, then I will let you go free." And as soon as the little bird promised he would not come back into the gardener opened his palm, but the little bird didn't fly off immediately. He just stood on the gardener's open palm, and he said, "Listen, kind sir, here are 3 rules that you must always remember. If you follow these rules, it will make your life so much easier and better. And the first rule is this: never cry over spilled milk. Second, do not wish for something that you cannot have. And third, do not believe something that you know cannot possibly be true." And having imparted these 3 rules, the wee bird flew out of the gardener's palm and landed on the high branch of another tree. And from there, he called out to the gardener, "You are a silly man. You let me go, and you do not know what you have lost." "What have I lost?" the gardener said in confusion. "Well, if you had killed me, as you had intended, you would have found inside my body a beautiful, valuable pearl as large as a goose egg, and you could have pearl, and you would have been a rich man." Well, the gardener believed what the little bird said. "What a fool I have been," he said to himself. "I must persuade that little bird to come back to me. I must have that big pearl." "Dear little bird," he called out in his sweetest voice, If you come back to me, I will not harm you. I will treat you as if you were my own child. I will give you fruit and flowers every day, and I will protect you from harm." Well, the wee little bird up in the tree just laughed and shook her head. "What a silly man you are. Could you have forgotten the advice that I just gave to you so soon? I told you not to cry over spilled milk, and here you are crying over my being free. There's nothing you can do about it now, just as there's nothing that could be gained by crying over spilled milk. And I also told you, don't wish for something that cannot be had. And here you are already wishing to have me back again. And finally, I warned you against believing what you know cannot possibly be true. I said that there is a pearl in my body as big as a goose egg, but I'm not even as big as a goose egg. How could that pearl fit inside of me? So if you want to be wise, kind sir, you have to remember your lessons better and longer than that." And with these words, the little bird lifted her wings and flew off. And although the gardener never saw that little bird again, he never forgot the good advice that she had given him. So that's the story of our wee wise bird. And now we're going to sing you out as you go to enjoy a summer fun program. Don't get too hot. Please be seated. We welcome as our speaker this morning Rick Childs, who comes to us from Mendocino, California. And Rick has been here in Madison throughout the summer months working on a variety of progressive causes, volunteering for progressive causes. He has a Master's of Business Administration, and he worked in corporate marketing in New York City for 10 years, but then dropped out of the business world, as he puts it, to find greater joy and meaning in life. He has been a teacher, a social worker, and an addictions counselor. And he was also the worship leader, the lay worship leader at the Mendocino County Unitarian Universalist Fellowship for around 11 years. He's divorced, and he has one son who's doing good environmental work in Seattle, and his avocational interests include politics, running, nature, singing, and good times with good friends. Welcome, Rick Childs.
Our reading this morning comes from the this Unitarian Universalist book called Everyday Spiritual Practice. It's called Balance by Susan Mankin-Seal. Deep in our... It's always good to get your first mistake out of the way early. Deep in our innermost core, we yearn to be connected with the mystery that can be called God, or nature, or the Spirit. We yearn for that oneness with each other and all creation, to know our place and value. There is no one right path to deeper spirituality. There are many right paths, and the one you choose may serve you for a while and then need to be changed. Like the Buddha, who left everything to go off in search of enlightenment, you may find yourself coming back to yourself in the end, as he did, with a greater understanding of the value of the mundane right alongside the spiritual. The message many of us have been given through our religious heritages is that if one wishes to be spiritual, one must leave the worldly world. But the world is full of wonder. If only we but stop and pay attention, it is waiting there to feed us. The day is made up of countless moments. Pause for those moments every so often, to listen and to look, to feel and to smell, to taste and to appreciate, to feel thankful for the beauty which is around us in the smallest grain of sand or the grandest of blue skies. Notice it and appreciate it, for you are it, and it is you.
That people come into our lives.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Do I have this correct? Good. It's nice to be here with you today, and thanks, first of all, to Michael for inviting me to explore spirituality with you all this morning. It's my hope when we leave, each of you will have some new perspectives on spirituality, and better perhaps, some new ways of creating a more spiritually rich and meaningful life. I'm guessing a fair number of UUs seeing spirituality as today's sermon decided that this morning would be a good day to be on the golf course or cleaning the garage instead. Unitarians, I've noticed, are very comfortable with social justice, community, ethics, and so on, but spirituality, well, that seems to set off varying degrees of confusion or discomfort, and sometimes even resentment. And who can blame them? For too many of us, spirituality is something linked to or even synonymous with God and religion, and unfortunately, for many of us, negative childhood experiences. As all too often, and I'm one of those in that camp, freeing ourselves from our early religious backgrounds was a difficult, sometimes painful experience. And if you're like me, because spirituality was so intertwined with God, you inadvertently threw the baby out with the bathwater and became adamantly secular, leaving spirituality and all it offered behind. Thank God, for Unitarian Universalism and the path it offers to build a different approach to spirituality without those traditional God religious entanglements. By the way, did you know that UUs have the highest percentage of people who came here from other religions? 84%. How many of us came from other religions? At least 84%. But I'm asking you to join with me this morning to put that God, religion, spirituality troika aside, along with any uncomfortable feelings, and explore spirituality in what I call its generic form. That is, spirituality in our day-to-day, here on this earth, human lives. And if this humanist spirituality feels good and right, then what we can do to create more of it. And parenthetical note, I'm using humanist as a broad description for anyone in the agnostic atheist camp. I like humanist because it sounds more positive and affirming than agnostic or atheist. And I might add here, for anyone who considers himself or herself a theist, who believes in God in some form, please know our discussion here today won't be a contradiction to your beliefs, but rather ideas that can be helpful add-ons to them. As Michael mentioned, I use my summers to go to different cities to volunteer for various liberal causes, and I've given this sermon a few times before to other UUs. 4 years ago, I was in Anchorage. It was July, and I was slated to give this sermon to the UU congregation there in August. I'd met several members, and one couple I'd hit it off with had invited me over to dinner. We were having coffee after dinner. Their young children had been put to bed, and we were discussing my upcoming sermon. Did they have any ideas for my making it more helpful and meaningful for their congregation? She told me of an incident that had recently happened to her. She'd been raised, by the way, as an Episcopalian, Sunday school, as a child, the whole 9 yards. She'd left it and was now a full-fledged UU and a humanist, but she'd been back in her church recently for some event. I think it was a dedication or something. When it was starting, the priest got up in front and after welcoming everyone said, "God is here with us today." And he walked around the room, greeting people, meeting them, and looking them in the eye and repeating, God is here with us today. Let us feel his presence. Let us welcome his love. And she told me how powerful that was for her, how she reconnected with her childhood connection to God, how she felt so warmed and moved, a glow, she said, that carried on throughout the entire day. Perhaps if you had any positive God experience in your life, you can relate to it as well. What a wonderful experience for her, and amazingly, how different and more alive everything in life felt afterwards. So the question before us is, can we humanists, those who one way or the other have left or rejected that God connection thing, can we get any of that same glorious feeling that yields so much joy and benefit to our lives? I say yes. Maybe not all of it, but certainly almost all of it. We can get that from within ourselves. Some DNA-based strand of spirituality and connection that dates back to the cave people, and that gets fed and nurtured out of our day-to-day living and environment. So that's what we'll be looking at today. Just what is generic spirituality? How do we feel it and experience it? And most importantly, how can we create more of it in our lives? One way, perhaps, of getting a handle on this is by looking at the 4 UU qualities of a spiritual life. Some of you have heard of these, but my experience is most haven't. I learned of them when I went through leadership school, a nice set of 4 standards by which to define, for us humanists, what a spiritual life is. So as I go through these, you might want to just do a little mental check. Where are you in these areas? And you'll note that as I discuss these 4 UU qualities of a spiritual life, there's no mention at all of a deity or God. The first quality of a spiritual life, a life of dynamic growth. That means that we're constantly working to become our best and truest and most actualized selves. Each person has life issues, insecurities, dysfunctions, whatever, sometimes dating back to our early childhood, and we use those, that we process those, and we use them as a spur for our internal growth. As we become older, it becomes even more important that we have this focus. As we tend to settle into routines and we know what we know and everything becomes solidified in our lives, it's important to really work to not fall into that trap. How? By taking risks, appropriate risks. By always making sure we have new stimuli in our lives. That we have a wide variety of resources and friends and conservatives, people of all ages, especially young children, I think, that we read op-eds from conservative writers, that we keep our brains alive by doing new things, travel, taking new classes in areas we've never touched before, always new learning. The markers of a life of dynamic growth would be that we feel younger than our age, that our beliefs and values are constantly shifting and changing. What we believed 10 years ago, different today. And we can fully expect that 10 years from now, we'll have a different set of values and beliefs. And even though our bodies may be slowing down, we feel more alive and we enjoy life more. The second quality of a spiritual life is that we keep growing in our ability to love, that we love more freely and more fully as we age. This means that we work on our ability to give and receive love from others and to ourselves. What's holding us back from loving more freely and fully? Are there resentments, childhood issues, blocks, resentments? That we work on these, finding ways to accommodate them, grow out of them, and become more fully loving. The third quality of a spiritual life, and this naturally flows from the first two, if we're having a life of dynamic growth and increasing our ability to love, would naturally follow that we would want to share this with others. So the third is a life of service. That we see ourselves, we see the gifts and the talents and what we've grown to be, and that we see these as gifts for others, and that we use this as a focus of our lives to share these with others. Starting in our inner circle with our loved ones, and moving out to our friends, our community, and of course, making the world a better place for our having been here. All these three need, obviously, an energy source. And so that would be the fourth UU quality of a spiritual life, a robust physicality. This means not just eating and exercising and having an alive, well-toned body that we take care of, but appreciating our bodies, enjoying them, enjoying what this being in a physical plane and having a physical body, what that means in our lives, the pleasures that our body gives us, the way it functions, and being tuned into how well it works for us. So those are the four UU qualities of a spiritual life. Just quick review: a life of dynamic growth, growing in our ability to give and receive love, seeing our lives as lives of service to others, and having a robust physicality. My hope for our sermon is that we can develop a better understanding and grasp of what spirituality, generic spirituality as I said, is exactly. Remember that glowing feeling that my friend in Alaska described, which religious people would describe when they feel God's presence in their lives? Can we humanists have those same exalted experiences she had? We're talking about having spiritual moments, if you will, transformative experiences like hers that arrive unexpectedly in life, fill you, and make life afterwards ever that much more wonderful. What makes them happen? And are they accidental, in that they just seem to arrive unexpectedly? Or are they things that we can actually cultivate and have more of? I fully believe that we humanists can have, and probably most of us have had, those same glorious, oh wow, moments that she had. And may I add that I think perhaps ours may be healthier and purer, because whatever we feel and experience doesn't come with all that other stuff that comes with God and religion, needing to believe in the supernatural, virgin births, thinking that they're given to us by God for our doing or saying the right things. So let's take a deeper look at exactly what my Alaska friend experienced and try to understand what took place within her, because there are some core components that happen when we humanists have similar experiences. Hers, or what I like to call her spiritual moments, was so intense that it took her to a different place, a transcendent experience which made the joy of being alive that much more glorious for her. We humanists can have those exact same spiritual experiences, but they'll happen in different ways and places, of course. Here are some common situations where I think we're likely to experience them. in nature. I'm guessing every one of us has been out in nature and felt connected in some powerful, maybe mystical way to it, to its beauty and wonder, and the serenity it gives us, filling us and taking us into some beyond human realm. I'm going to guess also that each of us may have felt those same exalted spiritual moments listening to music. Great music, Beethoven, Rachmaninoff, for example. Music so beautiful and stirring that it enters us and moves us into a whole new state of being. And of course, we can experience those spiritual highs with others. Those special times when we're with someone we care for and something just changes and happens. Maybe you're looking at each other while perhaps doing something ordinary like having a cup of coffee with each other, and out of the blue, you feel that person's importance to you in some bigger-than-life way. And the love and the connection you feel for them just rises and takes over. And here's the best part. Almost any life event can slide into one of those spiritual moments. Here we are going along, doing something we typically enjoy, maybe gardening, art, writing, singing, exercising, and then, seemingly out of nowhere, this beautiful, how good to be alive and feel this wonderful feeling fills us. You might notice some physical changes when the spiritual moments happen. Your breathing will become deeper. Your body feels warmer. And if the spiritual experience is really powerful and intense, a tingling on your skin. I experienced one a couple of months ago. I'm a substitute teacher, as Michael mentioned, and I was substitute teaching at a preschool. And here I was out on the playground, and I had just finished pushing this delightful little 3-year-old, 4-year-old girl on the swing, and she was just ecstatic. And I finished, and I turned around, and I looked, and here were all these 3- and 4-year-olds just playing, just fully playing and enjoying it. And I just all of a sudden started feeling, oh my God, how lucky I am to have this day with these wonderful young little people. And I got a vicarious hit on their energy and their innocence. And here I was, a positive person in their life. And this vicarious hit on their just having fun. And I just started feeling it. All of a sudden, I felt that rush that goes through me, and my arms started tingling. But our minds also change when we're experiencing these spiritual moments. Scientists can measure major changes in our 5 different brain waves when we're having spiritual thoughts or feelings. Our thinking processes change. Our minds go a little fuzzy as we shift from left to right brain thinking. So, what exactly is going on when these spiritual moments arrive in our lives? I think this is the key to understanding them and ultimately having more of them. What's happening is, at some level, we're letting go. Inside, the edges of who we are, our ego, are dissolving. And in that losing some of ourselves, we find ourselves merging ever so gently with something or someone outside of ourselves. I like the Buddhist way of describing it, that we're becoming one with whatever it is. We're becoming one with nature, the music, this other person, the gardening, in my case, the children. Of course, that rush we feel then is great in and of itself, but equally sweet is how it changes us, how that high lingers on and puts a glow on everything that we do afterwards. The more of these golden moments we can have, well, of course, the better. I'm guessing each of you at this point, as we've been talking, may have been recalling some of the times when life gave you those special moments. Some, most in fact, are small, little blips that we feel when we feel a deeper, sweeter connection with someone or something. But every now and then they're, oh wow, powerful. No matter their size, these special moments, I think, are among the best moments in life. So much of life is ordinary, routine, accomplishing. We're just going along, and then, whoops, the spiritual moment of richness and connection and joy arrives. It's those spikes that provide life these oh so how good it is to be alive pleasures. One other quick little thought on this. For anyone with tendencies towards anxiety or depression, these spiritual moments are a wonderful antidote. They soften the hard edges of life if you're anxiety prone, and obviously offer very healthy, joy to be alive feelings if your nature is depressive. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have 5 of these special moments each day? Or 10? Or 20? If only we could will these into our lives. Unfortunately, they seem to arrive on their own. But how often and how big they are things that we can definitely influence. Like a baseball player, he can't get a hit every time he goes to bat, but doing good prep work beforehand, like taking extra batting practice, greatly improves his chances of getting the hit he wants. So, what are some things that we can do to create more of these special spiritual moments that bring benefits to our lives? Let me offer 3 fairly simple ones that seem to work. And I know there's a lot of material in this sermon, so I'd like to remind you that this is being recorded and you can catch it on the internet afterwards for all these many points that I'm offering. Too many points, probably. The first is trying to be more fully present in the moment, bringing attention and intention to what you're doing. As one Buddhist-based Unitarian wrote, what takes any given human activity and turns it into a spiritual practice is the way we approach it. When we bring our attention and intention to it, a subtle shift occurs that makes the process more important than the outcome. A subtle shift occurs, let me repeat, that makes the process more important than the outcome. A process in which in some mystical way takes us out of ourselves and delivers us beautifully into the larger spiritual dimension of what life is all about. So here's a nice exercise that can help develop that. Once a day, take a minute or 2 and pick one activity that you do routinely and do it instead consciously. Eating, showering, brushing your teeth, cleaning your glasses, whatever, slow it way down. Fully noticing and feeling every part of what you're doing, all the physical sensations that come with it. As the Buddhists would say, become one with that activity. That little exercise, I think you'll find, has ripple effects out into the rest of your day. You'll become so much more aware of and beautifully connected to all the joys our ordinary day-to-day living can offer. The second suggestion is harnessing the power of gratitude. In this practice, every night before you go to sleep, review your day and choose 2 moments that you are glad to be alive to experience. I'm glad I was alive today and got to experience what? They don't have to be big things or accomplishments. In fact, in a way, it's better if they're not. Like that wonderful feeling of water hitting my skin in the shower this morning. That belly laugh I had watching a Seinfeld rerun. That hug my friend gave me when we parted. Gratitude's been called the gift that keeps on giving, because what I think you'll notice is that after a week or so of doing this nighttime remembering and being grateful to have had those moments, is that once you start the process of recalling them after they occur, I think you'll start noticing them when they occur. When you recall at night what a good time you had with your friend, you're much more likely to then really notice, enjoy, and appreciate your friendship when you're with them the next time. And the third, if you don't have one already, develop a spiritual practice. How many here would say you have a spiritual practice? Does it enhance your life? My main one is meditating, and in a few minutes we'll do a short congregational meditation together. But there are many spiritual practices, all of which can build a more meaningful life. The obvious traditional ones are meditating, yoga, running, chanting, but also quilting, music, gardening, even social justice work and marriage can become a spiritual practice. As we just saw in that reading, it's not what you do, but how you do it that makes it spiritual. A spiritual practice is a dedication, a love affair that you build with your future self, and one which pays immense dividends. There's this wonderful UU book that I read from earlier, Everyday Spiritual Practices. Spiritual essays written by various UUs covering everything from meditating to eating to parenting to marriage to recycling. How to change an ordinary day-to-day human activity with attention and intention from something you just do into a meaningful spiritual practice. One of the essays at the beginning is by our own Michael Schuler, by the way. I found this one of the better, more practical books for deepening my spirituality, and you can order it, of course, from the UU bookstore in Boston. I understand there's also a copy in the library, so there'll probably be a rush at the end for that one. I recommend it highly. And now let's take a moment to enjoy a spiritual meditation together for the next couple of minutes. I ask that you join with me. If you feel comfortable, please close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, start breathing as deeply and as fully and as naturally as you can. Feel your body on the seat and your feet on the floor. Let each breath, especially the breaths that you exhale, take you down deeper as you relax more fully and you feel more present in your body. Let each breath deepen and bring you to a greater state of feeling present in your body in a more beautifully relaxed way. And now I'd like to ask you to gently recall some special moment recently in your life that stood out among all the rest, in which you were glad to be alive. That moment had a special vibrancy to it, perhaps a time in nature, special time with someone, perhaps doing something active. Doesn't have to be a big moment, something little that gave you pleasure, like just sipping a cup of good coffee. And if several moments are floating in your head, let the one that most wants to be here stay in your consciousness. And keep breathing more deeply, more relaxed. Each breath filling your body. And now let that moment that you have just recollected, attach it to each breath. Bring that moment down into your body. Each breath you take, each exhale, brings that moment deeper and more fully into every cell of your body. Deeper. And enjoy that very beautiful feeling that you're experiencing right now. And take a moment to express gratitude that you were able to appreciate that moment back then, that you recognized it as something special, and that it gave you pleasure, and your gratitude for having that wonderful moment of being alive. And now, as we bring our meditation to an end, be grateful for what you just now experienced here this morning. Recapturing that moment and letting it become deeper and more a part of you. So now return to our room as you gently open your eyes, and being grateful for what you just experienced. And as we go forth today, let us feel a new inspiration with the new ideas and the tools that we've developed for creating a more spiritual life. Thank you. closing hymn, number 231. May we leave this, oops, should be on. May we leave this place changed, better able perhaps to face the challenges of our lives, reassured by the presence of this community and the support it offers, reminded by the affirmations of our free faith which encourage and help to guide us. May we leave this place changed, even if just a little, that we may approach tomorrow with greater hope and louder praise.
Why